Welcome back to From Corporate to Cashflow, where Andrea Cannon and Liz Schwab, two pharmacists navigating the process of building time and financial freedom through real estate lending and investing while working our day jobs. Navigating the journey is difficult, but our podcast guests are experts in showing us how it's done. And today we have Chris Geddes. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you both for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to get to learn more about you, Chris. I know you attend a lot of the meetups and are very interactive with other investors and such. So excited to dig a little bit more into your story here. So to get us started here, I am interested in hearing a little bit more about your journey into real estate. So how did you even hear about real estate? Like, did you have a regular W-2 and what are you focusing on today?
Yeah, great. Yeah, my journey is kind of, I think, probably similar to a lot of people. I had worked up until 2 years ago, your very standard kind of W-2 career. My background is in tech. I did product and program management at various startups and larger technology companies in the West Coast and the Bay Area. And like a lot of people, I remember, I think in probably 2016, as I'm on my commute every day listening to podcasts, I got into the Bigger Pockets. I listened to the Bigger Pockets podcast. Brandon Turner, David Green, all these people, and that was kind of my big kick of, I was making decent money at that time in my life. And I was like, what can I get into next? And that was the big driver. I bought my first rental property very traditionally. I brought the 20% down. I did all the things. I bought that first rental property in 2017. I felt that I had terribly overpaid for it at that time. And like a lot of people, that property I have refinanced multiple times, and it helped me acquire additional properties. So they really were not lying. They said, get your first one, and before you know it, you can find your second, your third. So that was my first kick into real estate in 2017.
Nice. And so this was just based off the Bigger Pockets podcast. I mean, was there any other driving force here?
I was just looking for additional interest, right? I was in tech and I was like, some people are like big in the stock market, some people are in this. And for me, I was like, I know what houses are. I know this physical thing. It just felt more tangible for me. And so Bigger Pockets was just an easy way to do that. That podcast was getting very popular at that time. And I kind of just caught the bug and I thought this would be a good place to go, passive income, rentals, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there was nothing, it was, the real kind of joke was at the time, my now wife, but girlfriend was like, hey, I know you want to get married, but what if we invest in like a rental property together? And she,
Ooh.
bless her, was like, yeah, I'm all in. So like, it was pretty amazing for like, when you build a relationship, she's like, yeah, like I don't need engagement ring. Like, let's do this. We did get engaged, shortly thereafter, but, it was a really cool experience for the two of us to kind of build for a future. And frankly, again, that first property, has driven so many of the things that actually I'm doing today.
Yeah, you guys really jumped into the dating scene there, didn't you? Just
We
going
did.
all in and getting an
Well,
investment property
my
together.
wife and I have been together 20 years this year, so like
Okay,
this,
all right, that's fair.
she
That's
was
fair.
like way stuck with me at that point, so like she knew what she signed up for.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Um, okay. So let's see. So you got some rental properties, and then at what point were you like, "Hey, I'm gonna go full into real estate"?
Yeah, so I vividly remember this. My kind of moment of when I really started planning my transition for my W-2 into real estate or something else was January 1st, 2023. I don't think I was hungover, but I woke up New Year and I remember just sitting in bed and I was just kind of frustrated. And I was like, I feel like in that time period from 27 to 20 or 2017 to 2023, I had acquired kind of one more property every 2 years. Was kind of roughly my path for a lot of people because I was saving up for the next down payment, and it just wasn't really going at a pace that I thought my goals would be able to achieve. And so I was looking for how to buy real estate faster or what can I do, and that kind of got me down this rabbit hole. I found a ton of the people on YouTube, Pace Morby, all these other kind of influencers at the time that talk about creative finance, other ways to get into real estate. Um, and so that was kind of that kick. I ended up investing myself for the first time in a long time, joining one of those communities and really looking at what that path would look like. At the same time, I was kind of getting burnt out in my W-2. I mean, I'll say this: I worked at Google. By all definitions, it was supposed to be a great job. I had the best job in the world, whatever it is. but for maybe a lot of people listening to this podcast, like your job can be great, but it can still not be awesome in your day-to-day life. And so I was, things were changing at that point. We were, a couple years into, that pandemic or running down, just the work environment had changed dramatically. And I was just feeling pretty kind of tired and not sure what. So that process in 2023, more education, looking to acquire more properties and really start planning what an exit could look like.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I think a lot of people can relate to what you just said. A lot of people, of course, maybe are hesitant to take that jump, but definitely relate to that feeling of, being frustrated, and
Yep.
it's a job, you can like it, but not be like obsessed or love it, right?
Yeah.
So, can you just tell us what you're focusing on now today in real estate specifically?
Yeah, so in that time frame of, kind of thinking about leaving to leaving, I left my W-2 job in April of 2024. About 9 months previously, I started a real estate acquisition and wholesaling business with a partner that I had met. That was the proof of concept. Really, I'm very entrepreneurial, and that kind of came out. I wanted to build. Real estate was a method, but I really wanted to build businesses. So I started that process there. That was the ability of like, oh, okay, I'm making money from this. Like, am I replacing my W-2 income? No, but I had planned for that. I knew I wanted to make this transition. So that started that off, and really my big push into 2026 now is more business acquisitions. So I acquired a commercial flooring business at the end of 2025. That is going well. There's a lot of growth there. We will likely start adding additional what's called bolt-ons. So you buy another local business to add on to it and add on to it. So we'll be growing that flooring business in 2026 and 2027. I bought a car wash, which is a very fun asset. I had that kind of stumbled into. So I've been dabbling in these small businesses while continuing to add a real estate portfolio. So I do this full time. I've got, at this point, over 10 kind of employees, team members working across my various businesses, which was really amazing. And it really was a good driver for me to kind of take the entrepreneurial aspect I had kind of inside of me, but never got to flourish within the W-2. And that's been my big push since then.
That's really cool. And how did you decide on commercial flooring?
So this is, I think, a great thing is I was given an opportunity through people that I had met. I would have never gone into commercial flooring, but my business partner, she had been in the industry for 10 or 15 years. It was a family business. And it's really nice when, did I know anything about flooring? No. But when you have a partner that knows a lot about it, and then my skill set, and this is a good thing in partnerships, you and your partner shouldn't be good at the same thing. You
Mhm.
need to be able to have your own skill set. So being invited into that business and opportunity, I was able to kind of bring my tech background, that skill set, to a very standard brick and mortar business, and drive growth there. So a lot of my opportunities have come through partners that I trust and have met, and they have kind of the industry specific knowledge, and then I bring these other aspects to help it grow. So yeah, in short, it wasn't on my bingo board, but I'm really happy I did it.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool story. And I love that you mentioned that about the partnerships and having complementary strengths. Do you have any recommendations for how to identify good partners?
I think the biggest thing is like any good relationship, you should date first,
Mhm.
right? So if there's someone you like, set some kind of joint goals, figure out what that is, and put a timeline on it. Like, hey, let's see what we can do in 3 months, 6 months. That is a really good way because, like anything at the beginning of a relationship, everyone's like gung ho, ready to go. They promise the world, but like anything, after 6 months, maybe they're not the person you think they were. And so I've had a lot of success with my partnerships of starting slow, setting kind of realistic incremental goals, achieving them, realizing I like working with that person. They are keeping their end of the bargain. They're working as hard as I am, or whatever we agree upon. And then when you get to that point, then you can do bigger and better. So my first couple partnerships, really small kind of targeted things to start from there, and then I added more, and then I got more involved, because as you'll find, it's hard to unwind a bad partnership if you didn't know what you're doing in the beginning.
Definitely. Yeah. And, I think that everyone gets so excited when they're getting into real estate or businesses or, just investing in general. And I mean, you maybe find friends and you get really excited. And then when you have a business together, things can change, right? Even with friendships and everything. So I think that's a good point to call out that the dating piece is really important, because you never know if people's priorities might shift, even if they're well intentioned, everything was going fine, but your priorities could change or something like that. So it is nice to be able to vet that in like a dating period. So
Yeah.
I love Love, love, love that advice. So I know you're talking about, Google and you're building this portfolio in the background and you're starting this real estate wholesaling business. Was there any specific thing that like actually made the decision to leave your your job at Google?
I think it was a big thing for myself as my burnt out, the feeling I had just kind of reached the end. I remember, I mean, it's funny. I feel like, it feels like this was rushed, but in reality, I think I'd been kind of planning for this for over 5 years. And I'll tell this with people, get your life in order in the sense of I really did my best to reduce expenses. I really was thoughtful about this. I understood what kind of runway, if I made no money for a couple years, would I be okay? I started having those conversations with myself and my family, well before kind of some of this, because I had a feeling maybe I would want to break. And also in my industry, we had some of the largest layoffs we had ever seen in that time period, 23, 24. It was, going through this, and a good chunk of 10 to 15% of the entire tech industry probably lost their jobs within that time period. So it was mindful to me of like, hey, what would happen if I didn't actually have a choice on this? So that was kind of weighing back in my mind. And I think it was kind of some good planning to be able to handle this transition period. And then I remember really for me, it was I had a I had a difficult conversation at work, and I felt like I was being thrown under the bus. And it was really tough because things we were talking about was I had been warning about for months, and yet no one was listening to me. And so that was on a Thursday, and I resigned on a Tuesday. I was ready to go. So it was pretty dramatic if you think about that. But it feels like at the moment. But when I look at it now, like I'd been planning for this moment for years, realistically. So it made that transition pretty easy to do.
Yeah, it sounds very methodical, right? Like, I mean, everyone has certain personalities, and I'm sure some people are like, yeah, I'll just quit. I'm not recommending that, but it sounds like you obviously did your planning and you're just waiting for that one thing to be like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And it happened. So
Yeah.
I totally get that. Makes
Yeah.
sense. And I know
And
what
oh,
were
go
you
ahead.
gonna say?
No, no. I was like, maybe not the healthiest thing, but again, like I would feel much differently if I had not planned for that, right? Like I kind
No,
of
for
knew this
sure.
path, and I had these other businesses that had started building that passive income. And I mean, I'll tell you, like from my last year at Google to my first year in this, my income dropped dramatically. But
Yeah.
we're already on the up and up, right? We see that path, and this was, I almost kind of treat it like a sabbatical year. You don't get paid. It's like I'm gonna learn a lot. I'm gonna do something different, and then I'm ready for that shift. And that was I was only able to essentially quit like that for the pre-planning that I was able to put together.
Yeah, you got to think big picture in the long run, right? Not the immediate return here. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you had mentioned some things about like partnerships and dating and other things that you've learned throughout this process. I'm curious, like, what is like the biggest thing that you've learned throughout your real estate journey that you wish you would have known at the very beginning?
Oh yeah, this is a good one. So what I'm learning really right now when I'm shifting is um, smaller is not necessarily easier or better or to understand. A lot of people start with the single family home, the one rental, whatever it is. And what I've learned in my experience is the amount of effort to make a single family home is the same amount of effort generally as a 10 unit apartment building. And it seems crazy to think that, but it's okay for you to think a little bit bigger and go a little bit bigger than this. I wish, and I know I hear this advice so many times, and I've heard it well beyond this, but it's okay to think bigger. And I think people, if you're getting into it, it's okay to have a bigger goal. You can buy that fourplex. You can buy this bigger thing. You can buy, that kind of boring business. It feels daunting. You're gonna have a huge lesson regardless of what you get. And I think the biggest thing I wish I knew is it would have been okay to like dream a little bit bigger and push a little bit harder to get some bigger assets earlier on. Because that's what my big focus in 2026 will be is actually bigger assets.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because we've talked about this so much on different podcasts that we've had before that everyone wants to start as being a landlord or buying a single family home, right? And man, like the property that I purchased, I might as well have bought a freaking 500 unit plaza, like through the
Yep.
number of problems that I had, right? And so I think it's so interesting. What you're saying is that you can think bigger because a lot of the issues that you're going to be dealing with at that smaller capacity, you might as well just be managing something else, something larger, right? And to your point, the number of properties you have to own to even make that cash flow that you're looking at, it's so large that, to your point, just go bigger in the first place. So it's just funny that we hear the same repeating things. Like of all the individuals that we're talking to. So I think that's like super interesting. Anything else? I know I asked for one, but I know you have a lot of experience, so I'm super curious if there's.
The next thing, and hopefully this resonates with your audience. I wish I knew it was an option when I was working. I really wish I had embraced becoming a lender in this space, because we talked about this. Now, so many caveats. You have to do some education. Like, just don't do it willy nilly. I know Liz and Andrea are like very aware of this, but in the sense of, if you're able to find the right person that you feel comfortable deploying money with, you can get better returns and better cash flow than, the single family home, just by, lending on someone's project in so many capacity of that. And that was something I just wasn't aware of. I didn't know it was a thing. I think I would have liked to dabble in that more. I do have a small lending portfolio now, money coming in and out, which has been, a nice addition to kind of my income stream. But I wish I had learned more about that and been able to deploy that while I was in my W-2, because I do think it's a great way to gain experience, deploy your money, and then you're not feel like you're taking on another job by owning a rental or managing that or doing these other things. And so it's something that people should consider. All the caveats in the world, please do your due diligence. I don't know what else I can say there. Reach out to these fine ladies. I'm sure they can help you figure something out. But that's another thing I wish I had more knowledge about when I was starting, because I think it's a good way to get involved and actually kickstart fairly desirable returns.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I didn't even know that private money lending was a thing until I got into real estate investing. And you're absolutely right because, like Liz highlighted with her first property purchase, there's just a lot of headaches that go into these like older, homes that are most likely the ones that you're going to buy, as your first rental property. My first rental property was built in 1978. I think Liz's was even earlier. There's just things that break and happen and you're getting all these calls. They're all one-off things where it's like you can't like automate it or use AI to get like, the one-off random thing, right? Which is why either scaling to something much larger initially upfront or doing something like private money lending or both makes a ton of sense. And I wish I would have started private money lending sooner as well, because if you do find a good operator, it is absolutely truly passive. If you don't, it's a completely other story, which we will touch on
100%.
another podcast, I'm sure. But right now, I do think that it is very nice to have very truly passive income. So this is a good point, Chris. So thinking about that transition that you made, from being a W-2 worker to being an entrepreneur, they're two completely different things in a way. And so I'm wondering, there's so much more initiative and self-starter requirements that are needed, when you're an entrepreneur compared to somebody telling you what to do on a day-to-day basis in your W-2 job. So are there any habits or routines that you've developed personally to help keep you on track and, getting towards your goals?
Yeah, no, it's a really good statement. I want anyone on here to listen to that. Working for someone and working for yourself are two fundamentally different things. Even if in your role you have high urgency, high agency, you have that control, it still is fundamentally different. The biggest advice I think on that transition to help people, I would like you to build habits before you actually make the shift. And the story I'll share here is I started this real estate business while I was still working my W-2. Unfortunately, for 6 to 9 months, I had 80-hour weeks. I would work my W-2, and then I would do the real estate stuff on the side, night, weekends, whatever it was. And I knew that after 6, 9, 12 months of doing that and absolutely loving the amount of work I was putting in, I had built those habits while I had the security of my W-2 to know that I could go out and be the self starter for that. Because it's one thing to be all in on your W-2, quit it, and then like, hey, I'm going to start this new thing, versus, hey, I've been working my buns off for the last year and I already know what I need to do in the new thing. And now the W-2 just frees up time. No longer having a W-2 frees up more time for that. And I really do think that's a really good measure. If you're willing and loving doing your side hustle in the evenings on a Saturday, you're telling people, hey, I can't go hang out because I really want to work on this, then that's going to be a really good indication that you are building the habits to make you successful when you do leave.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. We already talked about this before, like just the planning aspect of jumping into, real estate full time, leaving your W-2. But everything that you just said is like such good advice. Like you need to have these habits, you need to plan for things. And I think it's so interesting that, I mean, sometimes people are like, oh, I need to do this. Like I need to record this podcast, right? But you're like, man, I like really loved it. Like I was doing this instead of doing the other things or other plans that I had. So I think there needs to be, it sounds obvious, but a certain level of like passion and like drive to actually move forward. And that it's a job, but you still need to have a level of like excitement behind it too, right?
100%. And, it also give yourself grace. It's okay to try something and hate it after 6 months,
Yeah.
and it would be really tough, I think, for me, if I had burn the boats, all the phrases, whatever it is, to go into something and I find out, oh, actually, this isn't the path for me. And so, gosh, even like we talked the dating analogy, it's okay to date the thing you think you're going to do next. Where
Hmm.
I thought I was going to go in real estate 3 years ago is different than where I am now. Now, I think strategically or like in my vision, I'm in the right direction, but the assets, the way I went about it, it has fundamentally changed. And so it's okay for you to learn that lesson and change. But yeah, I think it's a good measure if you can happily do it for 6 months, 12 months, while double dipping in everything else or doing all that work and balancing everything else you have in life. Then you're probably on a good path to be able to make the switch.
Yeah, 100%. Love this. I love when I agree with what what everyone else is saying. So I'm like, no, don't say that. Yes, 100%. So I know that obviously you've described the deep amount of thought that you've put into this, and like you've been doing this for a while now, and you've gained a lot of knowledge, both on like your real estate journey and probably just financially as well. Because as you mentioned, you're like, well, what if I don't make money for a year or 2 years? Am I going to be okay? So let's shift the audience here to someone that's maybe listening to this podcast and hasn't thought about their financial plans at all, but maybe they want to start, right? Like, how do I grow my funds? Maybe I'm interested in real estate. So, in like 30 seconds, broadly speaking, what type of advice would you give someone that's starting on their financial journey?
Yeah. So I think the simplest thing is have a clear understanding of how much you spend each month and how much you make. Really balancing just basic, budgeting 101. That's something that my wife and I really did to understand. What we needed to live off, right? We kind of in tech, there's a phrase of your burn rate. How much money can you spend each month until you run out of money in the bank if you're not making anything, for example. So we did that. We looked at that, right? We have for a lot of people, it's your mortgage, your car payment, your groceries, utilities, like whatever it is in life, right? If and decide, do you want to maintain the same lifestyle you had with your W-2, or do you want to change it? I said my wife and I were able to balance that out. Do we do exactly the same thing we did at a W-2? No, but no. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just understanding your income and your expenses, and then mapping out, well, how long can it not work, or how long can I be bad at it until I need it to work, and then give yourself an extra 6 months after that, and you should be good to go.
And then, did you have any moments where you're like, okay, never mind, I'm going to go back to my W 2?
I mean, so I have jokingly said that during this period, like if all goes terrible, I can just get another job. And I'm actually, credit to my wife. She goes, "You keep saying that, you're going to make that happen. Like, have faith in yourself, believe in yourself." So I appreciate her pushing that. But yeah, I mean, like in anything, um, you know, I've had easily $200,000 to $300,000 in revenue evaporate in the last year. The day of closing, things fall apart, right? Things will go wrong. I've been threatened by lawsuits. I've had everything, right? All these things that are like, oh my gosh, this is so terrifying. And that is just the nature of business. So yeah, there's definitely plenty of times where like, wow, like I guess I'm gonna go get some $15 an hour job because I have to, or I got to go look for another job. But that in those moments, that's like, okay, now what I really need to focus on and get back into it and do the thing I'm doing to get out of it. And in all those scenarios, we've been able to solve the problem, move on, and go through that. But yeah, I mean, that's entrepreneurship, and people need to embrace it, because these first couple of years as you transition, it's going to feel not stable. Things are not going to happen in the time frame you think, and you have to be able to embrace that. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think I say that about quitting my own job right now that I have, like, pretty regularly too, so
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm just gonna quit." Like, but then I do not quit.
No. And that exactly. And everyone has those moments, but it's just like, to be real, like entrepreneurship is, it is an experience. It is hard. There's a lot of things you can do. You're going to be unsure. You are the sole decision maker in a lot of these things. If it goes great, you get all the credit. If it goes wrong, it's all your fault. And embracing that, right? And obviously, you can build teams and people and support, and that's fantastic. But that's just the reality of this. And it is a little bit jarring as you leave your W-2 and start to move forward in that. I just want to encourage people, you'll do great. You'll be successful if you plan for it and you just, kind of give yourself grace to know that you're probably going to be bad at whatever you
Yeah.
do initially.
Yeah, most definitely. That's such good advice. So, you've kind of talked a little bit about you're transitioning more into business buying a little, more. What kind of businesses are you looking for this year? Or more bolt-ons for the commercial flooring or additional things as well?
So what I will generally do for people is I dictate my businesses in different types of like activity and income associated with. So my flooring business is very much active income for me, right? So I intend to, it's my new job. If you think about this, I'm growing this business. This is how I will, make a good chunk of my income in 2026. And so the growth and the bolting on and adding to this, it's a nice primary focus, and that's how we will grow revenue there. So that is going to be a big focus, and I think in that space, and I'll kind of fall this into these like boring businesses, the brick and mortar, the service-based business, whatever it is. That's a really good opportunity to capture the silver tsunami, the baby boomers. There are a lot of people that want to retire, and we're going to try to take look at the opportunities of people within a geographic location to see if we can, just grow revenue, but through acquisition in 2026. So that'll be a big focus there. I do have what I call kind of some of my more passive businesses, like my car wash, for example. I love my car wash. I think about it maybe an hour a month. We have a local operator. I kind of just check to make sure things coming in. That is a really, really simple business. And I would love to acquire more of those in 2026. But like anything, you just need, I think the biggest thing for me is I'm a busy guy. I have a lot going on, and I have to be really good about delegating, my time. And I spend a lot of time making sure I have the right person in place to help with my businesses. So for me, growth will be driven by, can I find the right people to help this? So my car washes, you want a good guy that can go a couple of days a week to take care of it, because car washes can break. Same with the flooring business. We hired a fantastic general manager. A lot of my time in 2025 was finding those people, and then the businesses came from. So, but car washes will be a big kind of more passive acquisition strategy in 2026.
Nice. Are you looking for car washes in a specific area, like around the one you currently have, or in different locations?
So I would love anything. So my car wash is just south of Phoenix. So anything in the broader Phoenix area, I would definitely love to do. And then I am open to other car washes really across the West. So I will open to opportunities there. Again, like anything. The location is part of the equation, but it's really, can I, do the economics of the car wash or the business make sense? Can we negotiate something that works there, as well as can I find the right operator to help me with that? I will pick a reasonable business with a fantastic operator than like an amazing business with a bad operator, an okay operator, because it will take way more time of me to do this. And it's something that a lesson I've learned many times, and I'm trying not to repeat my past mistakes.
Yeah, and I think that lesson goes for not just business buying, but other things as well. Good lending opportunities with a great operator versus great lending opportunities with a good or less than good operator, right, are less likely to work out. Same thing with, fix and flips and all kinds of things like that, right? So I think it's a really good lesson to learn across the board in investing and the financial journey is the people and the relationships, and the making sure that you have them in place is probably the number one thing that you can take away from, being successful going forward, because the opportunities could be amazing, but if the people aren't amazing as well, then you might be in trouble.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It really, think about, are you really going to try to fight for an extra 1 or 2% return versus, oh, I don't ever have to worry about this investment, and someone will just, make sure things are happening, right? And
Mhm.
chasing a return or chasing an additional extra cash flow, chasing that, but not having the systems in place to make it easy. It's really, take it from me, is not worth the additional stress of not having, of chasing things down and trying to fix it yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, talking about additional stress and everything, Liz and I are trying to de-stress by traveling and exploring the outdoors and having fun while we're building wealth at the same time. So wondering if you have any upcoming bucket list travel that you'd like to hit on in the next year or so.
Oh, I love that question. Um, my wife and I have very much been enamored with going to Japan and going through there. I went there for a short trip a couple years ago for work, and she has never been, and I think that would be pretty amazing. So um, I don't know. Planned is a strong word, but like desired is a better way we're putting this, and we're looking through that. But I do think that that country and the way you can travel around it, and just the diversity, even the things you can do within that country, is definitely on our bucket list. I love Japan, and I'm excited to explore that part of the world.
I have so many friends that have gone to Japan recently. Like, I don't know what's going on, like, but, and it's been mentioned on this podcast when we asked that question too. So I don't know, but everyone's going there now. So, yeah. Is that where they have the Mario Kart thing where you can act like you're in Mario Kart and get the carts and run into each other?
Yeah, I know that they do Mario Kart tours throughout Tokyo. So they meet you,
Okay.
have little carts. Everyone gets to dress up as their favorite character. And then, funny enough, the story told that the guides are generally pretty ironic Australian men that drive you through Tokyo, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
That's that whole experience. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've had many friends who've done it. They do recommend it. It seems like to be a good time.
That's so funny. I would go there just for that. So,
Yeah,
I don't need the culture. I just need the Mario Kart experience. So, yeah.
exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. So I know you told Andrea about kind of like what you're focused on and such. So are you looking for to people to bring you potential other opportunities of businesses? Are you seeking money, or do you have any opportunities for people to collaborate with you?
Yeah, so in our business, we're always working to collaborate with people. We can help in any aspect. My real estate wholesaling business, if you're looking to assign or find a buyer for a property, easy enough. You can reach out to me on Instagram to do that. One of my favorite things to do is pay other people money for bringing me opportunities. So I happily pay assignment fees, referral fees, whatever it is. So if you know of a car wash that is for sale somewhere in the West, let me know. If you've not got flooring company, recommendations, let me know. But yeah, anyone can send me via my Instagram anything, and if it's a deal, we'll happily compensate you for that. So that, as always, in our business, we're raising capital, either for business acquisitions or real estate acquisitions. We have several private money lenders making double digit returns or more on our assets right now. We'll be closing on a new asset actually in next week using a private money lender. And so that is a big part of our portfolio, and we love helping people either learn via a lender for some of these opportunities. And so that's an easy way to work with me as well.
No, perfect. Sounds like there's a lot of opportunities here for potential collaborations. And I know you mentioned your Instagram, but just to summarize here, can you let everyone know that's listening or viewing the best way to get in contact with you in case they are interested in reaching out?
Yeah, I found that the best way is if you just send me a message on Instagram. It's Christopher_Geddes. Big smiley face with a mustache. You can't miss me. And if I don't reply really within 24, 40 hours, send me another message. I might have just missed it. Sometimes it gets hidden somewhere. But I really appreciate the people that go, hey, did you get this? Because then I generally find it. But yeah, send me a DM there. And that is generally the best way to get in touch with me.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Chris, so much. You have been a wealth of knowledge, and I really have enjoyed learning about your transition because I think it's something that a lot of people that are listening to this podcast can probably relate to. That, really solid W 2 career, but the transition, the, maybe dip in, income, but the massive, massive increase in knowledge. And it's like only going to snowball and grow exponentially from here. So we can't wait to hear how 2026 goes. We're going to have you back on to learn a little bit more about the evolution, how the flooring business has gone, and how many more car washes you have, and probably new things we haven't even talked about as well. So thanks again for being on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
And then thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of From Corporate to Cashflow. We will catch you next week. Hey, it's Andrea. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, I'd love it if you hit subscribe. Thanks so much.